What's going on, guys? Welcome to Raw Recovery, the community. Today I have with me my good friend Alison. Before we get into how we met in just a little bit, I want to first introduce who she is. Alison is a sober mom. She's a sober wife, friend, sister, and she's also very active in the community of recovery. She owns her own business. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself in regards to your business and what you do for the community?
Sure. So my business is called Bloom Babes Long Island, and it's a interactive bouquet making. And we go to different events and parties, and everyone makes their bouquet, and it's like a party favor that they take home. And I do that with one of my best friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're also very active in your community, and when we say the community, we're talking about as in recovery. You mentioned that you chair your home group, and that you also work as a sponsor. How else are you helping in the recovery community?
AA is a big part of my story, and it has to come first in my life because it works for me. I chair my home group. I find the speakers, and I also volunteer at my local rehab 2 times a month, which I really enjoy.
Doing good things in the community.
Yeah.
In addition, you're also taking KSAC courses, which is how you and I met. Shout out to Miss Gail, who's in the studio today. Why don't you tell the people what KSAC is and how you stumbled upon wanting to become a certified licensed drug and alcohol counselor?
So I love being active in AA, but there's only so much that I could do. So I just felt like, I had hit 3 years, or I was almost at 3 years of sobriety, and I felt like it was my purpose, and like I wanted to do more with it. And I Googled, and then I found Miss Gal and her wonderful class and you guys.
Yes. Learning a lot in there, different tools of how we can help the next person, not just so much in the community, but like if you were interested in some sort of therapy, we'll be able to assist people in that manner. So I take my hat off to you, Allie. You had your own struggle, and now you're giving back to the community and furthering your education in that way. At this time, I did want to show the people, we put together some collages of what we were looking like in the past when we were still in our addiction, struggling, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about the pictures you brought, and you can ask me the same about some of the pictures I brought. So this is back in the day, Allie, before she got sober, and it looks a little rough here. You kind of breaks my heart looking at some of these pictures, except for this one where you look really happy. It looks like St. Patty's Day. Yeah. What was going on in this one?
That one was right before my life changed as I knew it. I was at St. Patrick's Day into the third day of being blacked out. And that day I was blacked out, and I thought it was the most perfect time to go talk to my ex-boyfriend, who wanted nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And at this point, my alcoholism had really picked up, and I had hurt him a lot. But I thought it was a great time to go talk to him. And I was knocking on his front door, and my fist went through it. Still to this day, like, I swear it was an accident. I have no reason to lie. But I remember coming out of the blackout and being like, should I let myself in and apologize? Should I leave and pretend it wasn't me? And I let myself in, and that's breaking and entering.
Right. And the cops, and they
so then I was looking for him, and I noticed that there was snow outside, and I noticed there were footprints, and he had ran away from me. Like, he was scared of me.
Oh, wow.
So then I love to fight with people when I drank. Like I was angry, it was just sad, angry, so much rage. And every time I drank, it came out. So I didn't get my fight there. So I went home and I called the police on my parents. And the police came, because then once I did that, I realized, why did you just do that? They're looking for you. So then they came to my house and I hid. And it took them like 20 minutes to find me. And once they found me in my parents' closet, they were like, I turned it around on them. And I was like, it took you so long to find me. Wow. Like I could have been dead. Just craziness.
That picture, is that one of many times of trying to, like a relapse or getting sober?
That was my first time. The next morning was my first treatment center. And that was my first time getting sober.
How many times would you say it took you?
20, maybe more.
That's a lot of times to keep trying, and at least you kept trying. Some people haven't even been able to get to the point where they're able to ask for help just yet. So what is it like facing relapse? Like, what is that feeling when you like did it once, you got sober, and now you're doing it again?
It's like the darkest, most painful, like disappointment, because you almost like relapse before, like you relapse before you even realize that you relapsed. Like it's already done. And then you wake up and you're like immediately the guilt, the shame. It's like your heart drops into your stomach. Like, how did I get here again?
I can definitely relate to those feelings. Not only can I relate to those feelings, looking at your pictures, it seemed that you were a little bit heavier. And from some of my pictures, as you can see, I was also heavier. The amounts of drinking that we were doing, there's so much sugar, there's so many calories in alcohol. Did your appearance affect how you were feeling, like any shame that came along with it?
So my parents, I grew up in my house. There was love, but there was also a lot of instability. My parents both had struggles. They tried the best that they could with what they knew.
You lost?
Yeah.
That's okay. That happens. So we can cut there. So I was just asking you about did you feel any shame or any struggle? Like, what shame did you feel with your appearance when I was?
Yeah.
So we can cut back into there.
So it was kind of a difficult situation because I had my own feelings about their use. They weren't alcoholics, but they had their other substances that they were using. So I wouldn't say that like I felt shame from them. And even like with my mom and dad, both of their issues, they always wanted to help me. And like if I chose, to go back to treatment, they supported me and made that happen for me.
That's kind of where we were going to lead into next. I was going to ask what your childhood was like. What was it? What was your household like? You mentioned briefly that your parents had their own struggles. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So my mom, the first that I can remember, she became sick after she gave birth to my sister. So she struggled with postpartum depression, and that was during like the opioid epidemic.
Got you.
With the painkillers and the doctors. So they were prescribing her those, and she was sleeping a lot, and it's just hard because I want to like share, you know, my full story and how I truly grew up with also, you know, not like airing like her personal stuff.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But yeah, she struggled, and she's, you know, still struggles sometimes. But you know, my dad, he was a criminal defense attorney, and we had you know, we had a lot growing up. He had his own firm, and he also had a cocaine addiction, which ultimately killed him in 2016.
Okay.
So, you know, since like a little kid, I was a nightmare of a child for an addict, because, you know, what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house. And like, that's kind of how it was, but not with me. Like, I was a bird, and I would call my grandparents, I would call whoever every time, you know, I found it, saw it. The first time I found drugs was in my own home. First time I ever saw it. And when I confronted them, they said, "Oh, we've been meaning to talk to you about this. We found this in your room 2 weeks ago." So that's just like an example that I share, that like the lying and manipulation I grew up to think was normal. To anyone new out there, it's not. But yeah, it was definitely tough. And I thought, you know, there was a lot of fighting and a lot of, you know, with cocaine, the ups and the downs, and it just was not a stable home.
I understand.
Yeah.
It sounds like you went through some traumatic experiences growing up. Would you say that those experiences, or anyone in particular, shaped who you are today?
I mean, yeah. Because it's still like, I feel like I have some of my parents, like my dad, like his characteristics I carry with me too, like of always wanting to help, and, you know, just doing whatever I can to help others. Like, that was just like him. So like, basically what I'm trying to get at is that, like, addicts we're not bad people, we're sick people when we're active. And so by shaping me into who I am today, I think that, I don't know.
That's okay. That's fair. I mean, if some stuff that we go through, we don't even notice it shaped us. You know what I mean? So that's a fair answer. Okay, so before addiction, who were you? Who was Alison before you started using any substances? If you can even remember, because that's really hard to tap into.
I can. So I was a very fearful child. I was scared of absolutely everything. Mostly I was afraid of dying. So I was medicated when I was in 3rd grade for depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And I was put on all these medications. I asked this girl that sat next to me every single day, "Am I going to die today?
Oh, wow.
Am I going to die today?" And every day she was so nice. So she would, "No, you're not going to die today." And just recently I reached out to her and I thanked her for that. And because even her saying no to me, like, calmed me down. So that I feel like is alcoholic behavior, like the OCD, the fearfulness, and just like controlling things in ways, like if I had an argument with someone, like, I need to fix it right away. I can't let things sit. In recovery, I've learned how to pause. That's something that I never was able to do prior.
Can you remember the first time you ever took a drink?
Yeah. Yeah. The first time I blacked out the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
First time drinking? Mm. Do you remember where you were at? Were
Yeah.
you with
I was
friends?
friends at the beach.
And what was that feeling like? Can you remember before the blackout? Can you remember if it felt good? Like, what was the sensation? Or
Warm.
yeah. When did you notice that your drinking had went from fun to now it's a problem? Were there early signs that you were dismissing, or did you really just not even think you had a problem until it was like smack in your face?
It happened very fast for me. Like I said, I didn't start drinking until I was 21. I remember it was my 21st birthday and I didn't even drink. And that's in February. And then I had a traumatic event happen to me in July. So after that event happened, I picked up and I didn't put it down. So within those 2-3 years after that, it was game over.
You mentioned blacking out. Can you ever remember? Can you recall a time where you blacked out and you woke up somewhere and you didn't know how you got there?
Yeah.
Can you
Plenty
can you
of
give us an
times.
example?
Yeah. Like even like the most recent time and that I've been thinking about is just like, it was after my son was born and had gone out and I came home and I woke up like on the floor and next to my bed. And my husband was on the couch and I, ran out there and I was like, what happened? Where was I? Like, I had no idea, like, where I was, how I got home. And just, it's scary.
I was just thinking that this, from experience, that is definitely one of the most scariest feelings in the world, waking up, not knowing how you got there. Were there times when you were drinking in the past where you put your life at risk? I believe I've seen in some of your pictures where you're in the hospital. Did your drinking lead to any medical issues that you dealt with or even are still dealing with today?
I was always in the hospital. I would drink and use till, I was the girl at the party where they'd have to call 911 because, I was not conscious. And there's just, I was always that girl. And I was in the hospital more times than I can count.
What about withdrawal? Have you ever had any experiences with that?
Yeah, I've been in a few detoxes. But even like, like after I stopped drinking, say after like a bender, like the shakes and the anxiety and it's hard to explain to someone who like hasn't gone through it, but it's, it throws me into panic attacks, just awful. So.
I'm not just putting myself in your shoes, I'm literally remembering, you know what I mean? Do you remember with withdrawal, do you remember feeling itchy, like when it was trying to leave your system? Or the one thing that I haven't got to ask another alcoholic, do you remember the scary, vivid, scary dreams? Like when you're going through withdrawal, it's like things that your mind can think of that are just like, the average person wouldn't even be able to comprehend. It literally scares you out of your sleep. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, in rehab. Because I was never able to get sober without going away.
Okay. With addiction, not just alcohol, with addiction, period, we find ourselves in some pretty risky, dangerous situations. Did alcohol ever affect you? Did alcohol ever put you in a situation that you, one, regret? For example, any sexual risky behaviors that you were a part of?
Yeah, definitely.
And thinking back, how does that make you feel?
There's still, you know, situations where I regret and you know, people I shouldn't have been with. And
Knowing that you wouldn't have done some of the things that you did while you were inebriated, do you consider any of those times as like sexual assault? Like, how do you look at the person that you were with at that time, since you weren't possibly not even there mentally?
to be honest, I really haven't ever like thought of it like that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any flashbacks from your blackouts that like you have to dwell on it? Like, did that happen, or is this just like a faded memory? Like, how often do those pop up for you?
Not so much anymore. I would say like in the first year or two, it was a lot. Like something so small could trigger it, and I'd be like, "Oh my God!" Like I just like something from a blackout just came back to like revisit, and just even that is scary,
Right.
you know.
Because doesn't it just feel like sober Danny would never do that? Like, I'm not even brave enough to do some of the stuff that my mind remembers. And like when I think about it, I'm just like, there's no way I did that. Because like I literally like break out in cold sweats thinking of like how scary some of the situations were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Ali, how much sober clean time do you have?
I have almost 3.5 years.
Nice. What's your sobriety date?
8822.
8822. That's a good number. That's a good number. Your children, they were born while you were still trying to get sober. What was that like?
Yeah. So I found out after a weekend of partying. It was a Monday. I was at work and I was like so tired. It was a different type of tired, not a hungover tired. And I took a test and I was pregnant with my son. I was somehow able to stay sober through my pregnancy. But the night I brought him home from the hospital, I was drunk.
Oh, okay. Wow. And how was that, like a binge for you that first night?
I wouldn't say it's like it started, you know, like once you're past that point, it's like it doesn't slowly.
It's up.
Yeah. So it lasted, you know, on and off, on and off. I had tried to get sober for, I don't know, probably 4 different times in those 6 months before I actually did.
And what helped you take those first steps?
To the last time, nothing crazy happened this time. I was just truly sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I knew that like the time was so limited. Like I was either going to drink myself to death, or I was going to get sober.
Okay.
Like those were my 2 choices. And I was going to either lose everything that I have, ruin my husband's life, my son's life. Yeah. And I just, something came over me. I remember I was laying in bed with both of them and I just said, I'm done.
I felt that.
It was over.
How has your life changed since being sober? Physically, mentally, emotionally? Like, you know, when we're drinking, not only are we suppressing certain feelings, but our brain, like we're killing brain cells. We really cannot process things when we're in our active addiction. So how has your life changed for the good, or not so much for the worse, but like, what do you see at the forefront of your daily now that you're sober?
There's just so much. And even on the hard days, there's still so much to be grateful for. So many opportunities that have, you know, came into my life and people that I've met. And it's just, it's been a journey, you know. It's hard in the beginning, of course, you know, and people you think that like will be in your life forever aren't. But then you make friends that were way better than that you ever thought you could have in your life, you know, people who get you, who understand you, who are your support system, who turn into family.
How would you say your addiction affected your relationship with your husband, or your role as a mother? How did that play a part in, you guys are still married, so like how did he stick it out? Like what were some of his ways of getting some of his let out? Like some people go to in
Alan,
groups.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like how did you guys work through your addiction together?
Honestly, like, I'm not really sure how he stuck it out. I can't say that I would have
That's fair.
if I were him. But he knew I was sick, and he knew that alcoholism like wasn't it's not who I am inside. But you know, eventually, like, he was always at the hospital with me, sitting next to me, and then slowly, you know, he stopped coming. He would just be the, you know, the person to pull up and pick me up, and that's, you know, I didn't even like realize that until recently.
You mentioned how you were able to make some new friends since you've been sober. What was it like while you were in your addiction? Did you lose a lot of close friends? And even with some of those friends, were you able to make it right, mend those friendships? And if not, that's understandable too.
Yeah. So like I said, I was not a nice drunk. I was my best friend's maid of honor, and I conveniently relapsed 3 weeks before the bachelorette party that I had planned. And then I was wasted, and I went around a room and decided it was a good idea to tell every single one of my childhood friends why I personally thought they sucked. That did not go over well, and I was asked to leave the next day. In AA, we do the 12 steps, and when it was time to make my amends, I made my amends, you know, to where it was needed. Some people did not forgive me, and that's okay. That's not up to me to decide, you know. And I had to be okay with that, and I was, and I still am. You know, but and also, like, my best friend, like, when I made my amends, she said, you know, you are forgiven. And I could read her room. Like, I might have been forgiven, but that doesn't mean she wanted me in her life. But then, you know, I let it be, which was something I was never able to do. And not on my time, she came back into my life. And, you know, now she is also my business partner. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Shout out to your friend. You know, it's definitely hard to stick it out with us. But for those of us who do stick it out, for those of us who come back, we really do appreciate you. We know we put y'all through hell. Allie, we have so much more in common than you think. Girl, when you were telling me about a wedding that you ruined, I ruined 2. So I know what you are feeling. I'm literally holding back tears right now because I know that feeling. I know that feeling of someone, I don't want to say hating you, because that's a really strong word, but like, how can I make that right? I cannot. I can't. So I really just want to say to your friend, that's a really deep, strong bond that you guys must have for her to tap back into your friendship. So, you know, again, kudos to your friendship. Well, what have you learned about family and friendships through your recovery? How do you see it differently?
that like my chosen family has been my biggest support.
How do they show up for you?
It's just in like such a different way, especially people in recovery that understand you. It's wild. It's like we really, even like in addiction, like in recovery, like we still are like the same inside, you know, like same characteristics, like little quirks that we have, like what we just experienced before, me and you, like, I don't know. It's just, I lost track.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. And that is like, I wanted to ask you during your addiction, like, did you ever feel misunderstood? Because like people typically can understand addiction when it comes to strong, like the hardcore drugs, heroin, crack, you know, cocaine. Like people can, even if they don't totally get it, they can be more empathetic to those addictions. When it comes to alcoholism, it's harder for people to understand it as an addiction. How was that? Like, did you try to explain it? Like, how was it trying to explain that you're struggling with a substance and people don't even really see alcohol as like as severe as other things?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was kind of always severe, just because the way that I would act to others, it was like I was just interfering and just like wrecking everything that I was coming in like contact with. So it was always bad. So, but you ask like how, like I remember like the first time I was in rehab and, you know, I was the only alcoholic there. And I was 24 at the time. And I remember there was a girl there and she was a heroin addict and we were like on a bus going somewhere. And she said to me, "Wow, this must be really hard for you. Like, look." And then we drove past this like big building and it said like Beer World. And she's like, "I don't have to see that everywhere I go."
Right.
And it really is everywhere.
Yes.
And so socially acceptable. But like when you act like I do when I drink, it's not acceptable.
Right. That's a good breakdown. How many times would you say you were in rehab?
At least 12, and that's being generous.
I know some people struggle with even getting accepted into rehab or having access to certain things. Do you think people's communities, their different races, do you think that all plays a factor in people getting help or having, being able to tap into those resources?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
I just don't think that there's as many like resources. I noticed, you know, I go to the rehab in my local area to, you know, volunteer and speak twice a month. And I, you know, noticed that it is mostly white people.
That is something that, you know, we are with this platform. We want to make sure that whoever's listening in, that we are trying to reach everyone. Addiction doesn't care what you look like. There's no way that we have time to sugarcoat or be biased. We have to make sure that we have a platform for everybody to tap in. Again, like I said, addiction's coming for everybody. Doesn't matter where you live, how much education you have, or your race. It literally wants to kill and destroy all of us. We've been able to discuss on this platform and privately different things that we went through traumatically. And there's a term that people often use called trauma bonding, which can be viewed negatively. But in our situation, whenever I think of trauma bonding, I think of it as we've been able to bond over the things that we've went through traumatically because we can relate to that, but in a supportive way. When you're sharing your experiences with me and I'm sharing with you, we're always breathing life into each other, telling each other to keep our heads held high. What are your views on people who come together who possibly are still struggling? How can they not make each other sick? How can they build together to stay strong?
I, like when you're just getting sober, you mean?
Especially when you're just getting sober,
Yeah.
because don't you feel like some people for early in their recovery were still like in our pity mode, you know?
Yeah.
And if you have two people in their pity mode, that could be toxic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's when you have to be really careful. But then once you have time under your belt, I feel like really only positive, at least in my experience, I've only had positive experiences. Like with you, I know you understand me because we both have this thing. And vice versa, you could say some wild thing to me and I wouldn't even think twice about it because I probably thought the same thing 100 times, there's no judgment with alcoholism and recovery and everything that comes with it.
That's important to let the people know that there is no judgment, especially not on this platform.
No.
We want you to come as you are, but again, realizing that we're not going to sugarcoat anything because there's too many people losing their lives to addiction, to alcoholism. And Allie, with that, I want you to just tell the people, anyone who's fresh in their sobriety or even thinking about getting sober, looking back, what were some of your struggles trying to get sober, and what would be your advice to the person who is even thinking about getting sober and asking for help?
That was a lot of questions.
There's a lot of ones. Yeah. We'll break it down. So I was saying, with your sobriety, what was it like in the beginning? Can you tell people what your struggles were like in the beginning? And a person who's thinking about getting sober and possibly afraid, what would your advice be to them to go for it and ask for help, seek some help?
This time around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in the beginning, you have to make changes. Who you're with, people, places, and things. And I really, the first year, I put my head down and I did some deep work, not just AA, but therapy. That's also a big part of my story. I've had the same therapist since I got sober this time. I've had the same sponsor. And, my support network that I've made over time. But it's hard in the beginning and it's lonely. And but it doesn't stay like that. And that's one thing that I would just, remind people, feelings, they come and they go. And if you drink, it's just going to make it a million times worse. And there's nothing worth drinking over. Nothing.
I felt that.
It's nothing.
I totally agree. Allie, thank you so much for being with us and for being transparent, giving us your raw story. But Alison is a part of the team, a part of Raw Recovery. So she will be back 2026. We're going to have part 2 of Miss Alison's story because we're going to do a deeper dive into what it's like to live as an alcoholic on a daily. We want that part of you. We want all of it. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next time on Raw Recovery. Peace. Thank you.